Like if my parents dropped $2 million in my bank account, it does not change my life at all. I'll just invest in something. But 20 years ago, it would have massively changed my life. My
Yeah,
kids,
they need some seed capital when they're trying to start
yeah,
their own business in their early 20s, right? Like that's
right.
that's a good way of giving them opportunity while also expecting something of them to take on the responsibility.
Hi, I'm Tim Bratz, and every week I sit down with the top influential entrepreneurs in the country to discuss how to leave a true legacy in all things happiness, health, wealth, and wisdom. This is the Legacy Podcast.
All right. Welcome to the Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Bratz. Today, I'm with a good buddy of mine, Bill Allen, who is a stud real estate investor, engineering background, one of the most brilliant marketing minds that I've ever talked to. He's got a lot of really, really good stuff going on, and we're going to dive into how he's scaled his real estate business to flipping over 200 houses a year, how he educates people on how to scale their flipping and wholesaling companies. He's got some really cool stuff out to help kids and younger generations improve their financial literacy. One of them is Teenage Tycoon. He also has a TV show called Kids Who Flip. And dude, I'm just excited to chat with you and dive into all this stuff, man. Thanks for being
Yeah,
here.
me too. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
So let's start out and give a brief background on you, how you became an entrepreneur, how you got into the real estate world.
Yeah, I'll try to make it as quick as possible. So I went to Georgia Tech and I did Navy ROTC. So I went in the military right after college. So went to the Navy. I was flying airplanes and helicopters for the Navy I did it for 20 years, but I would say probably like 5 or 6 years into my military career, I was realizing that I was trying to build financial freedom for myself. Like it's always been a goal, but it was in the stock market and it was going really slow. Like I would track my net worth all the time. And I was in these free forums for stock investors, like index fund investors, and everybody would always talk trash about real estate. But I had a commanding officer in college who said he bought a house in every duty station and he never lost money. So I was like, oh, that's cool. So in 2006, I bought my first house. It was a condo in Pacific Beach in San Diego. I bought it for like 400 grand. I ended up selling it for 200 grand. So his thing didn't come true. I would have lost about $200,000, but the government bailed me out. There was this housing assistance program during the crash that helped. They just covered all the loss. So like I got a second start. You know, I lost 200 grand then. It would have been, I don't know, 5 times my net worth at that point, right?
Yep.
And so I bought another house in 2009, fixed it up, rented it out when I left, and then I kind of played that game, just like my commanding officer told me. I watched a lot of HGTV shows. I did like all the work myself for the first few years, just would buy a house, fix it up, was still single, so it was easy to do. And then I saw my net worth sheet, just like I tracked my net worth every month, and it was going up. I was watching the house appreciate. It was cash flowing a little bit. I was making like $500 a month, or some of them were like $800 a month each. And it was great. Like I just started increasing my net worth. So then I started, I went to England for a year. When I came back, and I met a girl, we were getting married, and we were pregnant pretty fast after getting married. And so I had 3 mouths to feed instead of one, and then I just went all in on real estate. So that's kind of the short story of it. I flipped a house a year. I made $43,000 the first house I ever flipped. It was half of my military salary. I thought I was totally rich. And I had everything figured out. It took me 6 months to find the next one. I'm like a stubborn engineer, which like, I think this was a fluke. I need to prove that I can do it
Mm-hmm.
again. So I did another one. The next year I made 45,000. It was a different city. I had to move in between those. And then I joined a coaching program. I joined a $25,000 mastermind, and this guy was flipping 100 houses a year, and his partner was wholesaling like 150 houses a year. Listened to their podcast, thought at first they were probably lying. This is not possible. It's not true. Met them, got around them, invested 25,000 in myself. I ended up doing 67 houses the next year. And then
Wow.
we did 135 after that, 187 after that. And like you said, we did about 200 houses a year until COVID. And I'd say we did about 50 to 60 houses after COVID hit. We can kind of talk about what changed in the business maybe. But now we do about 30 to 40 deals a year, but really high margins. So we'll probably net twice as much as I was netting back then when I was doing 200 houses. Less work, less people, less complexity, and just higher margins. So that's kind of the business model.
Well, I think this is a really good topic to hit on because everybody grows and they want to scale because they see on social media top line revenue numbers, right? And they think they need more doors. They think they need to flip more properties. And like, that's the ego like just really pushing all of us towards that. And then there's this maybe call it kicked in the nuts timing in business. Maybe it's like wisdom, maybe it's whatever. But all of a sudden you start reflecting and you're like, that shit doesn't matter. What matters is how much am I keeping and what kind of lifestyle am I putting in place? Can I make more money with less effort and be more efficient, more effective the way that I'm operating my business? Talk a little bit about that process. Let's dive into scale the heck out of this thing. Everything's cool. Everything's exciting. All of a sudden COVID hits. What did you reflect on, and what changes in processes and what changes in your systems did you make in order to do less deals, a fraction of the amount of deals, but make more money net at the end of the year?
Yeah. So you said the word that kind of triggers me sometimes, that scale word, right? So people talk about this, and I think it means different things to different people. And I think you really need to define it of what you want it to be in your business. Like when I went from 67 houses to 135, right? Or 1 to 67, like that year I went from 1 to 67, I was only trying to do 12. Like my goal was 12. And keep in mind, this was 2015. And so the market was different in 2015 than it is today, right? This is 10 years
Very.
ago.
Yep.
And then in 2016, it was different. In 2017, it was different. In 2018, it's different. And, as I've looked over the last kind of 10 years of being in masterminds and coaching programs and becoming a coach myself and those kind of things, I've seen thousands of different companies come and go, right? And inside of there, what I find is a lot of times they're not doing it for them. They're like doing it, like you said, a little bit for ego and image and things like that. Ego could be argued that it's for you, but it's like if they're trying to emulate somebody else's business or some other goal, and it's not internal to them, and they're trying to figure out what makes them happy and what they want and those kind of things, it's inevitably going to fail and they're going to wash out. Like that's what I've noticed. It's like, and it's a journey. So like along the way, you asked about my journey. My journey was just slowly and I feel like I scaled responsibly. Like it sounds crazy, like 1 to 67, 67 to 135, 135 to 187, and then like 200 some after that, and then dropping back down. But I feel like it was responsible growth. So like I let the business grow the business. And so if we made more money, like I went from doing maybe one deal a month to like five. That was by hiring a salesperson that was 100% commission. Like I didn't have to actually like front the money. I actually, company made more money. I was able to put somebody in place. And then the next problem I had was I have too many transactions. I was doing all the transaction coordination stuff with the title company and things. And so then I hired somebody at $12 an hour to go do that for me. And then I was dispositioning a bunch of properties. About, just for clarification, about 70 to 80% of that was wholesale deals. So we're just flipping the paper. About 20 to 25% was flips. We'd flip like 50 a year and wholesale 150 at the heyday, right? So we're actually swinging the hammer on 50 houses, not 200. And so then I had somebody sell the houses, and I've scaled responsibly during that period, right? And then I put a COO in place after a couple of years, and I was working like 2 hours every couple of weeks. But it wasn't because I wanted to only work 2 hours every couple of weeks on that business. It was because I wanted to go do something else. Like I get bored with stuff after like 3 to 5 years, if we're like honest. So I got to know myself really well. And I think most entrepreneurs, they're trying to like duplicate success. So I saw people come in the mastermind and try to go from 0 to 200 deals overnight, and they got destroyed. And they hired like 15 people in the first month. Like that doesn't work. You can't train and hire and manage and hold 15 people accountable that you've never worked with before.
Yep.
Like we don't do that in the military. We don't do that. You don't do that anywhere, And so could you imagine turning over like if our entire military turned over every single month, it would be a disaster. So my history was like you'd bring one or two new people in, integrate them, work with them, hold them accountable, and lead them. So what happened in COVID was, I had a multi-million-dollar payroll, right? We were doing probably $4 million of top line revenue, but I probably had $1.5 million payroll. And during COVID, we had 3 months of time where the market just stopped. And so a lot of people might not, and maybe it was longer. It was probably more like 4 or 5. I had we were doing like 20 deals a month. I got 20 deals in a pipeline that now it just stops. Like sellers don't want to sell their house. They can't go anywhere. And so we weren't making any money, but I was continuing to make payroll. I wasn't suited for 3 to 5 months of nonstop payroll without any revenue coming in, right? So I had to make some tough decisions. And so what I did was I went from like a peacetime, admiral or general, right, to a wartime admiral or general. I really had to make tough decisions, and I had to fire people. I had to cut people. I had to reduce the size of the business. I maintained as long as I was comfortable, but money was coming out of my bank account, not the business bank account. I was making payroll myself. And so that's when you have to pivot. And what I've seen over the last like 10 years is even in good times, people are not willing to pivot their business model to maintain their margins, to be smart about what they're doing. So that's what we had to do. I had to really kind of cut the staff. At that time, I was actually either going to sell the business. So I bought seven figure flipping from my mentor in 2019. So a lot of people might not know that. I joined the coaching program, paid 25 grand, grew my business as a student, and then I bought it from my mentor and owner in 2019. And so I didn't start the company. I didn't build it. I'm kind of like the hair club for men guy. I'm a owner and a client. And so, so I was working on the coaching business nonstop in 2020, and my COO and
Were you
everybody.
guys doing live events?
We were doing a ton of live events. Yeah, we had a big
Those all
live
go away
event.
too, right?
Oh, it all went away. Yeah, we were very early, but honestly, in the coaching business, 2020 was one of my best years, most stressful year because I sold all these live fulfillment events to everyone in 2019, right? So I bought it in 2019. I did my first big event in October. We had about 850 people come to San Diego at a live event. I sold a coaching program, brand new one that I built, and did really well. We sold a lot of people into it, and then come, we went on a cruise in February. So, and then the whole world shut down. And then my April event in Atlanta had to shut down. My May event in St. Louis, I had to shut down. My July event I had events.
Did you pivot them all to be virtual instead?
Pivoted them all to virtual. Lost a couple people, but we fulfilled and we did. And obviously the net profit was significantly higher in 2020 because I didn't have to pay for hotels and all these things.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, we kind of like we backed into success there, but then my real estate business was massively suffering. So I had to cut a bunch of people. I brought in a partner. One of my students actually partnered with me instead of selling the business or shutting it down or hiring another COO. I brought in a partner. I took a minority stake in the real estate business actually, so he could go run it. He was starting to see success. He was a military guy like me. I saw a lot of myself in him, and it took a couple of years for him to get his feet under him in that business, but they're crushing it right now in the real estate business that we run together.
Love it. What do you think?
A couple things that happened, I think it's happening right now. When the rates changed in July of 2022 or 2023, that was 2023.
22, they started going up, and then
yeah,
they
so it was
really
July
started
22.
hurting people in 23, 24.
Yeah, because what we saw was, we did a real estate event in July in Chicago for our group, and we said, look, you have to be able to survive this. You got to cut the losers. You got to sell your inventory and buy new inventory to make money. And we saw a lot of people not listen and get washed out. They just weren't willing to pivot their business. I think right now in my single family world, wholesalers have to become flippers if they want to make money. Like the wholesaling industry is totally changed since 2015 and 2016 when I was just killing it in that business. And so people are not willing to change. But back to kind of scale, it's like you define that. Like, what do you want your business to look like? If you want to do 200 deals a year, that's okay. If you want to do 5 deals a year and net $100,000 a year, that's okay too. But you define it. Don't let other people define what you want to do. That's the biggest realization I had in the last probably 10 or 20 years of doing this.
100%, man. Like chasing scale just because society says chase more and bigger is always better and more is always better. Like it's not the case, right? At a certain dollar amount that you bring in on an annual basis, what I've found is my lifestyle never got better, right? I had maybe more money, but it didn't mean that I could afford more stuff. I had less time. I had more liability. I had more investors. I had more conversations. I had more issues as I scaled it bigger, as opposed to, reaching a certain, but quality wise, it didn't get any better. It actually got worse as I scaled and scaled and scaled. So we've sold off about 2,000 doors over the past couple of years, and we're probably going to sell off a little bit more, but we're always looking at each of our businesses. And I think one of those things that we need to do more of is people want to add more to their plate in order to grow their business. And, being in the beginning of the year, here's all the things I want to accomplish in 2026. Sometimes you grow from removing things, right? And eliminating things from your plate and getting rid of friction properties, friction employees, friction relationships, friction friends, like whatever those things are that are holding you and causing friction and draining you emotionally, right? Maybe try eliminating some of those things just by natural osmosis. Better stuff's going to take the place of that, right? And you start finding yourself really spending time on driving things that drive you and deliver more value, drivers in your life, if you will. So, no, man, I think that's a big deal.
This episode of the Legacy Podcast is brought to you by Smart Management Property Management Software. If you own rentals or operate a real estate business, you don't need more deals. You need more clarity. Most operators are leaving money on the table, not because the asset is bad, but because the operations are loose. Rents, expenses, payroll, maintenance, it's all spread across systems, spreadsheets, and inboxes. Smart Management brings that together in one place. It gives you real-time visibility into your cash flow and operations so you can tighten up what's already working. When you see the leaks, you fix them. And that's how you make more money on the properties you already own. No guesswork, no waiting on reports, just cleaner data and better decisions. If you want to run a tighter operation and pull more profit out of your existing portfolio, check out Smart Management. Links in the description. Now, back to the episode.
You said you get bored of things after 3 to 5 years. I went and saw the original owner of Starbucks speak at a university a few years ago, like maybe a decade ago now. And he said something very similar. He's like, he sold when they were at 8, 9, 10, maybe 15, whatever stores, and sold it out to the equity group that then bought it and scaled it all over the country. And, he's riding the wave from a speaking engagement standpoint, but he didn't make any money. He made a couple of bucks, but he's like, one of the things he said was, I like startups. I like getting businesses off the ground. I like bootstrapping. I like the excitement of building up the team. And as soon as it gets more corporatized, I don't want to be involved in it anymore. And I usually sell the business. And I thought that was very interesting because it was kind of earlier on in my entrepreneurial journey of saying, like, I couldn't imagine building something and then just walking away from it or getting bored of it, and learning that a lot of the scale that comes in as you build your business, right, is you start thinking about like the tipping point and some of these books like Blink and stuff. There's a 10,000 hour rule of, in order to become an expert at anything, you need to dedicate 10,000 hours to it. And 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year is only 2,000 hours per year. So in order to really become an expert, now we're psycho entrepreneurs. So like we spend more than 40 hours a week on our businesses and thinking about it and all the time. So we could probably accelerate that to that 3-year mark. But what I found is like the compound success really starts happening in that 3, 4, 5 years after you're done planting and cultivating, and now you start to really start harvesting. But there's things that you do, right? By putting a COO in place and things along those lines. How do you still maintain or scratch that entrepreneurial itch to do new stuff without leading your team astray or being distracted by less efficient paths of the happiness and making money?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'd love to say I have it all figured out. So what I do is I know myself very well, and I say yes to the stuff that I'm actually interested in and excited about. And I have trouble saying no. I definitely try to put people in place that can say no for me because I'm really bad at saying no. But
did you have to define what your like buy box is? Like getting clarity on that, I would think, is a big deal, right? We do that in our real estate business. I'm only buying this, 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 and this. If it checks all these different boxes. Did you kind of do that personally for opportunities also?
Kind of, yeah. So what I'm getting at is like, I know myself very well that I am going to be distracted and I'm going to do things that I probably shouldn't. Like if anybody else came into my life and saw all the different stuff that I'm involved in and doing, they're like, this is stupid. Like you would make way more money if you just focused on one thing. Like if I spent all of my time on the coaching business or all of my time on the real estate business, I would make more money, but I don't really think that would make me happy. Mm-hmm. And so I listen, look, there's plenty of people out on the internet that are going to say, hey, focus on one thing, like you'll make way more money. That might be work. It might work for them. That's great. Like, I really don't care. I'm at a point in my life where I don't really care what other people think about what I'm doing. I'm just going to do whatever the heck I want to do. Like the cool part is some of the stuff that I do, if it stopped tomorrow, it doesn't really change or affect my life. Like it's not my livelihood. It's not, I sacrificed for over 20 years, like saving 55% of my salary to just dump it into IRAs, 401ks, investment accounts, things like that to to have money down the road. The interesting part now is what I didn't realize is like my skill set is worth more than my bank account. My mindset is worth more than my skill set. And so when I think about that, it's like I can make money any year I wanted to now. Like if you took it all and you dropped me on the corner somewhere, like everything that I learned over the past and earned and put time into over the past, I don't know, 10 or 20 years, like I have a skill set and I'm very confident that, I mean, I could become a millionaire again very quickly, like a tenth of the time that it took before. So with that kind of attitude, I make some pretty safe investments. Like you talked about the box. Like I do a lot of like life insurance. I do a lot of paid up edition life insurance. Like I probably have more, I have a lot and not as much as other people, but that to me is the most like safe thing that I do. So like I look at it like a forced account that I have to put hundreds of thousands of dollars into every year. And everything else I can do is kind of risky. Like I can take money and I can put it in. And I mean, I own a lot of apartment buildings with partners and things like that. Maybe invested into your software. So like I look at that as more like, hey, an apartment building is probably a riskier investment of mine. So some people might be like, that's like super safe, right? And so I'm not too worried about the money side of things. I'm more worried about like, does it fill up my soul? Like, does it get me excited? Do I feel like I work a day in my life? I'm like you said, I might work 80 hours in a week, but I don't feel like it. I could stay at my office all day, all night for like a week straight, sleep on the couch here, and I'd be just fine. Like I would actually be having fun. And so I don't want to do something that I don't want to do. So to me, and I feel like I've earned that over the last, like, I don't know, probably 30 years of saving money. Like I started my first IRA when I was 15 years old. And so thinking about that, I'm just going to do whatever the heck I want to do. And I definitely don't think I have a definition. Like the other day, I had a guy come to me and he wanted me to invest in a restaurant. And I was like, well, I want some equity. I'll give you some money, but I want some equity in it. And I'll just be a silent partner and I can help you from time to time. And if I made money, great. If I don't, that's okay too. You know, as long as I get my money back. And sometimes I don't get my money back. I know what the risk is. So I just like to do stuff that's kind of fun. And I was like, it's cool. It's about an hour away. It'd be cool for us to go pop into the restaurant, you know, and, you know, we own that thing. I want to build a 18-court pickleball facility right next to my office, but the guy won't budge on the cost of the land right now. So like, I shouldn't be doing that. But I don't care. Like I want to build a community here where I live. I want to have this pickleball facility. I want to own it. And I don't know, maybe one day I sell it. Maybe one day I give it away, or I'm a silent partner or build a board of directors. I have no idea. So I just say yes to stuff that like lights me up right now. But again, I earned that over a long period of time. I wouldn't advise you do that if you're just beginning. Like definitely focus on the thing, build something, get some net worth up, and then start doing something that, you know. But if you don't get distracted, you'll make more money. 100%. Like I would be way more successful if I didn't have, you know, a 13-acre farm in my backyard and I'm doing that, you know, 2 days a week, and then I'm running somebody else's business, and I got an.
Well, you'd be more successful from a dollar standpoint, but not from a fulfillment standpoint, right?
Exactly.
And I think, have you read Die with Zero yet?
Of course, yeah, I read that. Yeah.
Like optimizing for fulfillment as opposed to optimizing for the most money in the bank account. It's like, you know, you hear that and you're like, yeah, that's what we should all be doing, but nobody does it. Everybody just keeps on chasing bank accounts and dollars and decimals and goes down that road. Now, you need to be disciplined in order to make money like you're talking about over the course of 5, 10, 15 years. But have some fun along the way, right? Do some of those things that light up your soul as you move along with it. Like one of the things that we do is we're traveling like crazy. I actually don't read a lot of books, but when I hear about a great book, I listen to the podcast on it, and I'll go deep into multiple podcasts about the same topic. And that was one of them that I had earlier this year. And so like we've been to Hawaii, we went to England, France, Greece, Ireland. We went to Canada. We're going to Africa. We have like all these trips planned because it's just like, what am I waiting for? Like, let's go travel and create these memory dividends that will be able to compound as opposed to just financial dividends. Like, I don't even realize the money's missing from the bank account, right? And we have these unbelievable memories and pictures and experiences that we can talk about and we'll be able to talk about, and it'll make my kids more cultured to then open up doors for them and opportunities for them in the future with people that they meet, having like amazing interactive conversations. And I just think about like that to me lights me up. And that's what I really want to be dedicating our time and efforts to.
Well, you're at a place where if your bank account doesn't get affected by it, that's the key, I think, is and I'm not saying like don't do that early on. You definitely should do that. But when you go look at somebody else and you're like, oh my gosh, like their life looks so great. You have no idea what the sacrifice was like
Hmm.
to get there. Like I have my own airplane. I'm actually selling my airplane so we can go live in England this summer, actually. So I was like, I want to be able to not have to worry about a payment and all that stuff to go live. My wife's from England and my kids don't go back there nearly enough. So, and then go on a cruise, like be able to take her and her family. They'll probably never listen to this, I hope, because it's a surprise. But we want to go on a Disney cruise, like all through the fjords of Norway and stuff. And it's perfect. It's like right at the end of the
Dude, that
summer.
would be amazing.
And I want to bring her mom, her dad, her sister, my brother-in-law, their two kids, because they can't afford to do that stuff. And so like, I want to just be able to stroke a check for all of us to go on Disney cruise. Nobody has to worry about it, you know? And
It's
then
amazing.
and to get to that place, like that's what we want, right? That's where we want to go. And I'm definitely not getting any younger. And so we have to have those experiences. The biggest takeaway I had from that book was the average time when somebody gets an inheritance is they're in their 60s. And so if I say that the one thing that I took from that book is like when I'm like right now, if my parents are a little older, they're in their upper 70s. Let's just say something happened to my parents and we got some of the money that they had. Like it doesn't change my life at all. Like if my parents dropped $2 million in my bank account, it does not change my life at all. I'll just invest in something. But 20 years ago, it would have massively changed my life, right?
Hmm.
And so one thing I took from that book is like start giving that stuff away early on. Like help your kids buy their house, help your kids buy their car, set them up for success that way. Don't give them like too much stuff where they're just lazy, right? And so
Hmm.
my kids aren't going to be that. But my kids don't need my money when they're in their 60s. My
Yeah,
kids.
they need some seed capital when they're trying to start
Right,
their own business in their early 20s, right? Like that's
right.
that's a good way of giving them opportunity while also expecting something of them to take on the responsibility.
Exactly. While you're giving them the mindset, the strategy, like you're passing down all the knowledge and information and spending actual quality time with them. Like you said, you're taking them on trips and traveling and things like that. But saying yes to the things that you guys like to do as a family. So
Hmm.
that was the biggest takeaway I had from that book. Like I definitely am going to die with a lot of money still. Like I have a trust set up, I have a strategy of it all. But I mean, I'm not going to make my kids spoiled. They have a bunch of money. They're little trust fund babies. But I set my kids up with life insurance when they were born. They're going to be able to take a loan from themselves to buy a car, take a loan to buy their house,
Yep.
and pay themselves back and not have to rely on that stuff. So different things I think were interesting takeaways from that. But big thing for me is like that average of 65. It was such an aha for me because if I'm at a point in my life and my brother does fine too. My little brother, like they got enough money and their life would probably be changed a lot more than mine. But I mean, when I was 65, like what am I going to do with that? Like I'd have to just be
Dude,
like have
the,
not done nothing with my life to make it, if I got $500,000 or $1 million then to massively change my life, right?
the slap in the face for me was like, you get all this money and you retire and you don't have the expenses that you have when you're 40 years old, right? And so you have too much money in retirement, but you have too little health, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not going to go and hike Mount Kilimanjaro or run a marathon in my 60s. I could do that in my 40s. And there's certain goals on my goal list that I've had on there since my 20s that I might not want to do anymore just because I'm like, I don't want to wake up the next day, man, and feel my body in that amount of pain. And it's compartmentalizing when you go and attack these different bucket list items in your life, right? Hey, these are my 20s items, these are my 30s items, these are my 40s, things that I want to accomplish, these are my 50s. And a lot of the stuff, right, can be kicked down the road until retirement, but it's like the active stuff, that's the things that I'm trying to going on a safari, going on a zip line over Victoria Falls, and like doing that kind of jazz is not something I want to do in the middle when I'm in my mid 60s or whatever. And so, but just the whole idea, man, optimizing right for
Yeah.
fulfillment as opposed to optimizing for money is key. You had kind of like tiptoed into the financial literacy for kids. I'd love to spend kind of the back half of this episode
Yeah.
on talking about what you're doing on that front. It's something that's near and dear to me. And I'll give you just a quick background, but I was sitting on my way back from a mastermind, reading a book, The Magic of Thinking Big, back in like 20, maybe 17, 18 or something. And I'm reading this, and I just get through just the first chapter. I'm like, oh my God, these are such good principles. And I must have been 30, I don't know, 34, 30, something like that, 33 at the time. And I'm like, I'm reading this and learning it at 33 years old. And I had a 3-year-old at home. I was like, can you imagine if she was able to get these insights and just grow up with these ideology and this mindset? To your point, it's worth more than the skills, which is worth more than the bank account, which is worth more than anything else that you could be doing. And I sat on the idea for 2 years until was talking about it with some friends on vacation, and my friends, or my one best female friend from growing up, and my wife ended up raising their hand saying, "We'll write the books. You kind of deliver the ideas." And so they wrote Little Legacy Library. And we turned into Little Legacy Learning with some other type stuff. And essentially, they're books for kids from 5 to 10 years old, focusing on the principles in Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Richest Man in Babylon, and like we have Richest Kid in the Neighborhood, right? How to win class president instead of How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Think Big and Go to Baseball Camp and things like that. So it was a lot of fun, and but it never made any money, right? It was just more of an impact piece. But I love the idea of what you're doing with the Teenage Tycoons and Kids Who Flip. Talk a little bit about the inspiration in that and some of the principles, financial principles that you're conveying to kids who participate in these offerings that you have.
Yeah, I love that. We need to figure out how to do something. How do we plug that into those books into the front end? Because our kids usually start around 8 or 9 would be like the youngest kids that come into our program. And then it's really designed for like 6th through 12th grade, like really like 11 or 12 up to 18. And we have some like kids that haven't aged out. They just want to stay. They're like 19 and 20 and they just love it. So probably like, so where this came from, I had a little girl who came to our event with her dad. Her parents were divorced, and her and her dad, they do houses together. She was like 11 years old, 10 or 11 years old or something at the time. And she's like making all the YouTube videos for them and stuff. And they came to our conference in like 2017, 2018, something like that. And then that year, everybody, like some of the other adults saw their kids there, a kid there. And then the next year, like 5 kids showed up to the big conference. Some parents started bringing their kids, sit in the front row and stuff. And then the next year, there were like 20 kids. And then the next year, we had that girl Riley and her dad come present on stage about what they're doing and how she's flipped her first house and stuff. And then we had like 50 kids there that year because we were kind of promoting that, we had a young speaker. And then the next year, 3 kids spoke on stage. We had like 100 kids at the conference.
Wow.
And so and then kids started flipping houses and wholesaling houses in the community. And we have a girl named Sophia out in Washington. She's on the TV show. She did 9 houses before she turned 18. And then we have a kid named Ollie, who's also on the TV show. He did his first house at 14 and wholesaled that house. And then he's done probably 4 or 5 flips now. He just flipped a multi-million-dollar house down in Tampa. He's got his own show now. So it's really interesting. And so that concept created this need for the kids they wanted to learn. So one summer we just did an event here at my office. We had like 150 kids come with their parents, and we broke them up into different age groups and kind of taught them financial literacy like you were talking about. So, and it was the same topics, but just taught different ways. So the younger group would learn about, compound interest and credit and things like that, a different way than the 10-year-old would learn different than the 18-year-old. Yep. And so that was kind of like a test. And we had kids as young as 5 years old at that one. So we had a 5 to 8-year-old group. We had a really young group, and we have some facilitators who are previous teachers and really good with younger kids and stuff. So, and then, some of our other coaches for the real estate space were teaching the 16 to 18-year-olds. And so we taught all the different concepts just in different ways in different breakout rooms, and then some like mindset stuff together. It turned out really great. The parents loved it. It was kind of like a test. And that's when we launched this Teenage Tycoon kind of paid program. We're trying to figure out what that would be like. And we do like every Thursday night, there's a mentor that comes in. Obviously would love to have you come talk to the kids. I think it would be really valuable. And every Thursday night we have somebody that comes in. So we do a book club. We read a book every month. And then I try to get the author of the book to come talk to the kids on a Thursday night after. So they read 12 books a year, sometimes 11. Sometimes we have like the November, December book club is just a little, since with all the holidays, we try to not give them as much reading each week. But books like you mentioned, they read, like Rich Dad Poor Dad, they read. We've read How to Win Friends and Influence People. They've read I love to give them fables like John Gordon books, Bob Berg's book. I really love that one for them. Who Moved My Cheese? They read that.
Hmm.
Things like that. Just like books that we're reading, real
Yeah.
estate related books. And then we do an in-person event and things like that. So what I've noticed with the kids um, is they have this desire to learn this thing, but it feels overwhelming. And a lot of times they don't really listen to their parents. They listen to somebody else. So when we bring in those Thursday night speakers, they're engaged. And the kids ask amazing questions. And when you tell them to do something, they just do it. Like they're not.
Yeah.
So I love coaching the kids because they don't say, I can't do that, or are you
Yeah.
sure? Or
They haven't
they're
been
watching
jaded by
another.
real life yet.
Exactly, exactly. That's the best part. And so then the TV show kind of came out of that. My business partner in the TV show brought it to me as the idea. He saw me, building the mastermind for kids, and then he wanted to highlight, his son is the young kid who's flipping houses, and so he wanted to highlight some of the people in our community and build this TV show. And so it came out about 3 months ago. And the first season, we filmed another season after that, a challenge edition with side-by-side houses that were dropped on my farm. And two teams of three are going head to head. That one's finished and in editing right now. And then our season 2 will be filmed next year. And then our Kids Who Flip with Ollie, which is $1 million house down in Tampa, that's done being filmed also. So 2 spinoffs done being filmed. And I think the show is going to be really cool. I think it's going to take off pretty big. We're negotiating a contract right now. I wish I could talk more about it, but I did just post something on social media today. So Angel Studios has it under their guild for review to buy the first season of the show. So I suppose
Where can people watch it? Where can people catch it?
Yeah, I would wait. So right now you can watch it on Destination America, which is a Discovery Plus channel. It's on, like, if you go on Apple TV, you can search for it. You have to have that cable channel to get it. The plan was to release it on Amazon. We have a contract with them, but it might get pulled based on the Angel Studios conversation we're having right now. So I'd say in the next week or two, probably by the time this podcast comes out, we're hopeful that it'll be on Angel Studios app and everywhere that they put it out. So they have a free platform and they have a paid platform. So just like streaming, and they're looking at being exclusive for season 1 right now in the US. And then if you're overseas somewhere, you can probably watch it. It's on a bunch of different like cruise ships and airplanes and stuff like that as you fly all around. If you fly on Emirates Airlines as you travel, Tim, it'll be on there too. So yeah,
That's cool, man. I mean, that's, the exciting thing is as we learn new things, like I got into the tech space, not because I ever wanted to be in the tech space or even desired to be in the tech space. It was just kind of like the breadcrumbs of my life led me over into partnering with somebody who's got a software engineering business and started learning all this about the tech space. And like, I'm really diving in and really enjoying it. And it's similar to what you're talking about of like, we need this, we got to scratch this itch of like new opportunities and new things, because probably we love to learn so much. I can't imagine all the different things that you're learning as you're negotiating with these studios and these different platforms to go and promote and the TV show side of things. Like, is there anything that's just completely mind-boggling that you've dealt with,
Yeah.
or totally surprising that you've learned in these conversations?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're right. So what I learned is like 90% of the people over there are full of crap,
Yeah,
and
I can
everybody's
see
trying to
that.
sell you something and take advantage of you. So yeah, we've been screwed over a couple times, just kind of finding our way, trying to figure it out. But one thing that I noticed, and probably you with the tech side too, is we've been set up. Like I needed all the background business knowledge that I had, experience that I had to be able to pull off what we pulled off in the TV. The first one is raising capital. Like, it was cost us over $2 million to film and edit and put together the first season of the show. We learned a ton from that. Everybody that we talked to said it's significantly cheaper than they would have produced and of as high of a quality as they would expect, which is really good. And then the next two spinoffs that we filmed, we did it with like 60% cheaper than before. And then I found a loophole because I love to talk taxes. Like my taxes have been negative hundreds of thousands of dollars since I paid a tax bill in 2016. So for the last like 9 years, I've been just cracking the code on taxes. And I found a Section 181 deduction for TV and film, and I'm giving a multiple of write-off like we talked about for your opportunity. Without that experience and background and knowledge, like it took me 3 years to figure out that that structure of those taxes. Like nobody is sharing any information in the TV and Hollywood space. Like they don't have a mastermind for me to join that they're going to be like, oh, here's the paperwork. So I finally got to the right guy, the right person, right connection, met with him, and he was willing to share his paperwork and documentation of what they've been doing for the last 16 years. So, tax structure, raising capital, running a business, looking at P&Ls and budgets and making sure that we don't leak money, communicating to the investors, investor relations, actually being on stage. So like having a podcast, being on stage and being able to step in front of a camera and people say, hey, you're actually not too bad at this with no acting background. It's unscripted, so I can just talk. But all that stuff was needed. Like I had to be all set up to be in the right place. I think, God moves for a reason at the right time, the right place for all of us, right? And provide that opportunity. And so as you become more successful, opportunities are everywhere. Like we talked about earlier, you have to learn what to say yes to and what to say no to. And I reluctantly said yes to this. And I would say the things that I learned are, you have everything that you need probably to do the thing that would stretch you. And so saying yes and just jumping in and just seeing where it takes you, sometimes it's okay to do that. So yeah,
I love it, man.
I'm excited for you in the software stuff too. Obviously I'm an investor, so I'm going to be rooting for you, but I'm, learning new things. I like you said, I'm a front row learner. I love to sit front row. I love to learn new things. And I think that's why I get distracted every 3 to 5 years, because I want to go learn farming, or I want to go learn tech, or I want to go learn marketing, or I want to go learn systems, or I want to go learn TV, or I want to, but business is just business. It's all the widget doesn't matter. Once you've run, and I think if you run a real estate business successfully, you can run any other business on the planet. Real estate is one of the hardest businesses, in my opinion, to actually run and do well and sustain for a long period of time.
Why do you think that is?
I think there's just a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of market shifts and changes. There's a lot to learn and understand, and you can get kind of chewed up and spit out if you get ahead of your skis a little bit. And so I think there's it's usually like our money or other people's money, investor money, things like that, versus like the tech space. It's like we're going to raise a bunch of money and nobody cares if we lose it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot to understand, and people are not willing to take the time, like a long enough period of time, to actually learn the ins and outs of it to get really good at it. And I think,
and I think they come in with a low expectation too, right? Like, oh, hey, I could just I lived in an apartment once, so I can go buy an apartment, right? Or I watched HGTV twice, and I can go in and flip houses myself. And so I think they don't realize they got to become an expert the same way as you would in any other career, any other business, any other, like everybody thinks it's passive. Like that's the buzzword around it. And the reality is it's not passive. It could be residual if you have rental properties, but that doesn't mean it's passive. That doesn't mean you don't do anything. You still have to do the activity in order to then make the business run. And I think it's the expectation and then everything else that you said is 100%. I see the same thing.
Like you said, it's like time also. They think they're going to be really successful really fast. And so people are not, they have like an unclear expectation of what's actually possible and true. And I think that's a lot coming from like the gurus and the marketing space and the spend that people put on. Like, make money with no money. It's like the only actual passive real estate investments that I have are when I invest with another syndicator. And that's probably the closest to passive I've ever been in real estate, which is like, but then it takes money. Like to me, like
you need cash.
Passive income takes cash. Like you have to buy passive income. Sometimes you can earn it with your skills, but those are the two things that people don't really understand. It's like when you're new, you can buy into passive income, but if you buy a rental property, single family rental property, you don't know what you're doing, and you don't have mentorship or guidance or anything, it could go wrong, and the cash flow is just so low that it's like not even anything to write home about. You got to stack like 10 or 20 or 30 of those on top of each other before it becomes anything significant to change your life.
100%, man.
And people don't realize that. It's just too much like crap on the internet.
No, I agree. I think there's, but it's the best place to, you can definitely build a lot of wealth without having your own money in the real estate game. And that's where everybody goes to preserve wealth and preserve their capital long term. But you can't treat it like a hobby, right? It needs to be treated like anything else. If you're going to want to make real money with it, you need to give it real attention and real effort in order to build up.
It's hands down the best place to become wealthy. Like I have no doubt about it. It's also the best place to master a skill and a business to then go out and everything else is easy. Like I could go into somebody's plumbing business right now and be like, dude, I could run this thing like with one hand tied behind my back, and somebody else's like any business really, and just
Yeah.
be, that's what the beauty is of actually growing a successful real estate business is everything else in life becomes easy.
I agree. Right. Those pillars, right? Sales and marketing, finance and accounting, and operations and team building. Like the three main pillars of building businesses are on steroids in a real estate company. And so
Yep,
if you can do it there, you can do it anywhere. That's awesome, man. I really enjoyed our conversation. Where can people connect with you? Where can they learn more about the kids platform or the kids programs that you have, and just connect?
Yeah, you can go to social media. Obviously, it's Bill Allen REI. So I have Instagram. We probably have TikTok, but if you message me on there, somebody else is going to answer you. Facebook and YouTube, and then teenagetycoon.com. You can check it out. Just tell us you came from Tim's podcast. We do some special stuff for some of the people that talk about us and things like that. So we'd love to know that you heard about it here, and you can set up a time to talk to the team if you want your kids involved in that, and then in my Instagram, you'll see like Kids Who Flips Instagram page. Would love if you're an Angel Studios member, vote for the show right now. So they put it out to the guild, and people vote, and that's how they determine kind of the volume at which they bring different shows and movies and things like that in. So yeah, those are a couple ways.
Really cool, man. Really cool. No, I love having a conversation with you. You always have interesting stuff that you're working on, but you understand business. And so it's really, really fun to have conversations, and you've seen it in multiple different industries. And every time we talk, I get a nugget or a takeaway on something that we can implement in one of our businesses too. So appreciate you, brother. We'll tag you in all the different show notes, and we'll share with you guys all the links to everything that Bill's got going on. And I appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you're following him, and make sure you check out, Teenage Tycoons, look for the TV show, Kids That Flip, and just connect with Bill on social media. He's a great follow, has always leading with value and trying to help and share information on what he's learned in business. So appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you next week on the Legacy Podcast.